Welcome back to Akamai TV. I'm Nelson Rodriguez. I have the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the media and tech space, and I'm lucky enough to talk to folks who have reinvented the way video games are deployed, folks who change the way that we do business online, the way that we bank, the way that we shop. And I rarely have the opportunity to talk to someone who's been there through almost all of it. Craig Adams has been at Akamai for 2 decades. And,
it's a long time.
Yeah, and you'll be modest about it, but you've actually been a part of the process of changing the way all of us interact with businesses online.
Yeah.
As you've been through the process and seen all the change, what has remained the same in terms of what companies are trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest thing is that the problems our customers are trying to solve. So if you pick the media space, companies are still trying to drive engagement and monetization. If I pick the commerce sector, they're all focused on how they be successful online. If you look at the security place, everyone's trying to keep their origins up. So there's the same mission, but I would say the ways that we achieve it as a company radically change over the periods of decades. But that's always been the most fascinating thing is the old saying, same but different. It's a different portfolio, different solution set that really meets the modern way that our customers have problems.
Right, so fundamentally, companies have always been looking to build better relationships with their customers, gain more trust, make lives easier for their customers. It's just that the tech behind it has changed.
Correct, and I would say your adversaries or your obstacles have changed the most. So if we think of just what does it mean to do performance today, let me just pick one example.
Yeah.
15 years ago, it was all about caching. It was about, let me take something, let me cache it somewhere across the internet. Today, if you're not addressing third-party performance, you're absolutely not impacting the performance problem of your customers at all. So I would just say the fundamental complexity of an origin environment has skyrocketed, which means the solutions of the past don't work. So while it's the same customer problem, there's a radical different way that you solve that same problem today.
When you were there at the beginning, watching the CDN industry really be invented, when did you know or recognize that the solutions were going to expand, that actually we're going to move beyond caching and other things?
Yeah, well, this is one of the things I love about Akamai, is we're really good at listening to our customers. And what we started to hear 20 years ago and still today is what you're doing is incredible. Have you also thought about doing X? Yeah. It's even if we look at how we have our focus on security today. We blocked our first security attack roughly 15 years ago on accident, where a customer was under attack. They didn't know they were under attack. And afterwards, they said, we had this giant spike that you solved for us. Hey, have you thought about how you could do security at the edge? So our customers have always guided our innovation.
When you talk about that, I think a lot about the history of Akamai as a security company, and looking from the outside, someone who's only been here several years and not 20, it seems like Akamai incidentally ended up in the security space. Like we were in the security business before we knew we were. How was it on the ground as we made the conscious decision to start investing in security as a business?
Again, what I would say is our customers were guiding us. And so it was the problem that they were most struggling about. And there was that inflection point where people were first looking at performance, and then all of a sudden they started to push and say, well, if we're not up, our performance doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. What I would say really became the point where Akamai made the commitment is where we realized the true advantage we had out at the edge, which is, as some of the speakers have talked about, one of the key premises of security is layered security, and the ability to stop something malicious away from your origin, whether it's a cloud origin, a hybrid origin environment, or on-prem. The ability to block something far away is just a fundamental advantage that we have. And then it just became a matter of what pieces of security do we want to tackle first. And the most exciting part is we're still at the beginning. For all of the things we do, from solving credential abuse, fraud, protection, identity management, access inside the organization, we're still at the beginning of what the Edge platform can do for our customers for security.
I talked to Josh Shaul, and we talked a little bit about his Swiss cheese metaphor, the idea that security really has to be multi-layered because there's so many holes built into any given solution. And what we talked about is how a CISO's job is really so complicated because the problem set that they're trying to solve is complicated, and also the potential solutions are fairly complicated. What do you hear from customers when it comes to them managing the complexity of their own businesses?
Yeah, I think first I'll declare that customers tend to go through life cycles, which is I have a problem, I need an immediate solution. And so they piece part together a security platform that has 10 or 15 different providers doing different things. And then they quickly realize, maybe using the Swiss cheese analogy, that unless these pieces speak together, it actually creates vulnerabilities, not solves them. That you now don't have the aggregate piece of cheese, you have all of these pieces that you can't really see if the holes line up or not. And so I believe when customers are now at the point where they have all these pieces of security, but they're trying to figure out how does it all integrate together? And how do you have the point where the holes don't line up? And so I do believe visibility and controllability all the way through your security stack is becoming one of the biggest things that CISOs are having to deal with. But it's a pivot from solve the problem du jour to I have too many ways I'm solving the problem. How do I make them work better together?
Yeah. How are companies looking, when they talk to you, how are they looking to manage their own transformation? Because part of the power of Akamai and the opportunity that we've had over the years is that we're working with these fantastic companies who are transforming on purpose.
Yeah.
How are they talking about that when you meet with them?
Yeah, well, we always find that there's, I'm a believer as a technologist that technology either creates problems or solves problems. And meaning if you throw a piece of technology when there's no problem or no benefit to be had, you've probably done something kind of not helpful to the organization. So what we typically find with transformation is we're starting talking about what the ideal end state a customer wants. And I would say one of the biggest pieces of transformation is the ability of everything moving on-prem to distinct, disparate locations, and how that requires a fundamental rethinking of security. If I have one location, all of my end users, defined network segment, I can do some things for security. You throw in SaaS providers, employees in remote location workforce, it's an entirely different paradigm. So we tend to start with the evolution of our customers' origin environments, creates then a security architecture that most customers self-evidence that they need to approach a different way. So a lot of our transformation comes from cloud migration or workloads moving to the cloud.
Yeah, as we talk about security, I think a lot about media customers. I spend a lot of time in my life with media companies, and I'm talking about video providers, broadcasters, gaming companies, software companies. They are increasingly becoming aware of how rich they are in terms of being attack targets.
Absolutely.
How do you see that in terms of media companies and their awareness of security as a need?
Yeah, I see it pretty pronounced. So let's use the Women's World Cup, which is happening, as we speak right now. It's not beyond the factor of reason that a particular sporting match will cause an instigation of a DDoS attack to certain areas of the world. Yeah. And so when you have that environment where something as simple as sport can increase DDoS attacks, it's amazing. And we see this in addition to the media segment beyond it. I was recently at a customer in India that was able to identify that literally sporting matches had a direct impact on attacks they were seeing in the financial services sector. Yeah. And so I think our media customers get it. They see the problems, they see the adversaries. The question is, how do they layer it in where that security isn't a burden in their architecture, that it still allows them to innovate at the speed we've done? And that's where I think Akamai uniquely provides value.
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a young person, but really overall...
It's nice that you think that way. That's aspirational. I like to think of myself as fit, so
it's all positive.
It's each good that we have something we like to think of ourselves as.
I like the delusion that we're doing together, but I can remember a time when there were no ways to interact with any of these companies, right?
That's right.
There was no way to interact with my bank other than to go there. There's no way to interact with the airline other than to call. Yeah. And all these points of access for every kind of company has created additional need, right?
Yeah. And even just the stakeholders are so different. You used the example of booking a ticket or something of the sort. You now have so many different constituencies that your digital experiences are primitive. I mean, we can't fathom what happens when a website goes down, or a reservation system in an airport goes down, the literally millions of dollars of cost that cascades through an organization. The same is true in the media space. Across all of our segments, security is just a premium on top.
So last question for you, Craig. 20 years in.
Yeah.
What keeps you moving forward? What's driving you to the next 20?
The art of the possible, what we can do on the edge. So one of the things I've always believed is the thesis that we had of being close to end users matters. It matters in streaming delivery. It matters for website performance and optimization. It matters for security. We're still at the tipping point of what we can do on this platform, and the chance to work with so many customers who guide us of what we could be doing more that helps their business, and having the opportunity to help bring those to life on this amazing distributed platform, it's every kid's dream.
That's very cool. Thank you, Craig, for your time, and Akamai TV will be back.